All right, being 6:01, I'll call a meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please, Bob.
Chris Bull.
Here.
Ken Charneski. Chris Iden.
Here.
Tim Shaw, absent. Sean Demay.
Here.
Oh, Sean, Tim's on the phone.
Yep.
Sean Demay.
Here.
Alex Vedvik.
Here.
Kelly Quinn.
All right.
I couldn't hear, Bobby, if you got my attendance or not, Tim Shaw.
I have it.
Ciulla.
Thank you.
All right, item number 2, public comment.
Mr. President, my name is Bernie Kramer, 2150 East State Highway 153, Dublin. I'd just like to make a few comments under this ambulance situation that's been under discussion in Kronenwetter. And I'm really satisfied with where we are now. I have to give the board a lot of credit. We're signing that contract with Riverview here just a little over a year ago, and there's still about 1 year and 9 months remaining on the contract. I think it's a very good fit geographically, right at our doorstep, and I think overall, over the years, this is the best fit we've ever had. And then I want to extend on that good ambulance service, EMS budget in Kronenwetter is at $50,000. We've got a very good quality EMS, and it's been growing, and they provide a good service to the community that's beyond the ambulance. And it's at $50,000 though, and the ambulance budget is also at $50,000. So, I mean, we pay Riverview, Riverside for their $50,000. That's all, not 67 as was indicated in fire chief's budgetary stuff. So we're $50,000 apiece, and we're getting a quality service. And now, if we were to go to Kronenwetter and have the ambulances here, and they want to go to what you call a daytime service in staff on site. Okay, got 8 hours. Then that means that according to the records, 30% of the calls happen during the daytime hours. And then 70% of the off call. And then the people responding to the off-site, we got 8 minutes to get to the service center, which would be here, from where they live. They're supposed to get there within 8 minutes of the call. Now, with that in mind, Riverview, or Riverside, they get the call, and in a minute and 14 seconds, they are moving, and within they average about 8 minutes average for all their calls. So, we'll put that together, where we got people traveling to the station that are gonna respond to call off that 70% of the time, and Riverview ambulance probably is at the site already. They get there sometime in 4 and 5 minutes. So, I mean, I think for Kronenwetter, with that in mind, as far as response, we are going backwards. I mean, why would we want to down our ambulance service to the point where we are not serving the people in Kronenwetter, 8,500, at the same level as we hear. So if you aren't gonna get anything better than we got now, then you should, I think, just pack it up and say, hey, that's enough. We aren't gonna go any further than that. We're done. And capital purchase now, it's gonna save a lot of money, but to go to work and duplicate some of the equipment that we don't have to worry about with Riverside, they got capital expenditures starting out $700,000. Okay, now they just got here with no interest. So you go down there, you get a note, and just like that the fire situation, a little over 700,000, 900,000 was the interest. I don't know what the interest rate would be now. I'll say probably around 4 or 5%. That would be $1 million starting out. That'd be $100,000 a year expense beyond everything. The village would have to pay that to the ambulance to keep that thing fluid. And why lower the ambulance standards and pay more and get less? We would be giving less service, paying more money, and it just doesn't figure out in a logical, real world way. With this whole deal here, if we go to work and turn our back on the review, Kronenwetter's got the most to lose. Really, Riverside really don't care because they'll survive with or without us. But I think Kronenwetter's got the most to gain, and we should learn how to collaborate with our neighbors in a cooperative way, somehow or another, work this whole thing out. Thank you.
Thanks, Bernie. Next up is Kim Tapper.
My name is Kim Tapper, 2293 Cortland Drive. I'm a little confused here. We've got item 5, discussion of the village interview with the Channel 9 News. And I guess that was Bobby that did that on January 3rd. However, the administrator was on Channel 9 also. And he said, when interviewed, that the Democrats were causing this problem. Now, he's not here tonight. I saw it. Another person in the village saw it. So I'm asking, why would an administrator, he works for every one of us, be talking about Democrats and Republicans? If you're working for the village, you don't work. It's like saying, I work for only Democrats or I work for only, it didn't make a damn bit of sense. And who sent them out there to do that? I would say probably the board president. I don't know that. Why would he go out there and say that to the public? I just was overwhelmed by that. So if you're going to do something, do it right. But that village administrator did not have, should have not gotten up and said what he said, splitting the parties. That, and I don't know how this happens. Can anybody explain that to me?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You remember what Leonard talked about? I don't know if it was about parties.
I don't even remember him being on TV
Oh, okay.
talking about anything like this.
Well, it happened. Rod Fisher saw it and I saw it.
Well, we can't talk anything about it because nobody knows anything about it. Leonard's not here to defend himself, so we aren't gonna discuss it. Because we don't know.
We don't discuss nothing you don't wanna talk about.
If it happened, we'll talk about it. Next up is John Ciulla.
You know, I guess I'm up here because there was
Can you use the mic?
Name and address too.
oh, sorry, John Ciulla, 896 Gardner Park Road, Kronenwetter. Yeah, I'm here because I guess somebody had made a dispute after we had agreed to get my place built out there, and they didn't respond back with any kind of what the deal was or whoever, and it's been months now. I just want I guess I'm relying on you guys now to say, hey, you know, you can kind of crap or get off the pot with this and let me build my place like we decided. I don't know what the deal this guy is, what happened, but honestly, it's like, you know, it's been a long time, and I'm just relying on you guys to do the right thing so I can get this done, I guess.
We're gonna talk about it under new business.
Cool. And that's really all I had. I mean, I didn't know that he's not here.
You're welcome to stick around.
Huh?
You're welcome to stick around.
Yeah, absolutely, I'll stick around, but that's all I want to say, guys. Cool. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 3, reports from staff and vendors, the administrator's status report.
Well, excuse me. You can see it on the screen there.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have a copy, and I will try to entertain any questions that you have. And obviously Leonard was not able to make it tonight. I guess that's all I can do.
Okay, well, I got a question. The 2024 road maintenance bid packet, what's the bid packet for?
I believe that was for, I think it's done every year to see what kind of, and we only had one person that actually sent the bid in, and it was Barnier, I think. And that's just for normal maintenance and stuff that's on the list that needs to be seal coated.
Okay, so seal coat.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, thanks, Pete. We'll move on to your report.
I guess I'll just take any questions.
Anybody have any questions or comments? No? Hearing none, then we'll move on to the check register. So I guess Lisa couldn't be here either, Pete?
No, sir. But I can answer those questions.
Anybody have any questions about the check register? All right, very good, then we'll move on. Item F, the quarterly report from the Humane Society. Questions, comments? Black crowd. All right, moving on. Item G, the police chief's report. Oh, you're gonna say something, chief.
Well, I don't, excuse me, I don't have a whole lot else, but the good news is Pete doesn't have to answer my questions. Yeah, it was a busy month, as you see. We've got a busy month ahead of us here in April with training. So I'll take any questions that you guys have.
So when you talk about, like in your first bullet out there, when you talk about welfare checks, do you have to transport people? Is that just up to the county, or do you gotta take them like out of the county?
It depends. Sometimes they're out of the county, we can go Winnebago.
Oh, yeah.
And Winnebago's a popular one, and you wherever there's a bad open basically, but typically if we have to go out of county, it's usually to Winnebago.
And that's an hour and a half away or so?
Yeah, the big thing on those is if you gotta go to Winnebago, then you're dealing with their rules, and I know this is a topic that's come up with the chief of police around the state, is the mental health system that we have in place right now, it's not the most efficient. So, Winnebago's got their standards, the hospital here, you gotta take them to medical clearance. They kind of sometimes go back and forth, so it's not uncommon to sit at the hospital for hours, and then you get, before you can finally take the person over to Winnebago. But
Yeah,
as long as they got room here, then we're able to take them to North Central.
So if you have to go to Winnebago, does that typically mean that just whoever got that case is kind of the guy that's gotta work that case, or you don't have?
Yeah,
you have somebody else that comes in, like does the transporting or anything?
It depends, basically on the schedule, so if you got one person on and it's still within their shift and they can make the whole thing work, great, but if it's gonna start to incur overtime and stuff, and we've got another car on that we can switch out, we'll have them go there and relieve them, and then take care of that. Yeah.
So is this procedure dictated by the state?
As far as Winnebago,
The whole procedure, when you find somebody and you have to transport them across the state?
yeah, it's under chapter 5115, those are the emergency detention, so you gotta put somebody under emergency detention, and you end up having to confer with the North Central Healthcare Center. You get approval to put them under the chapter, as we call it, or not, and then if they are, then typically you've gotta get your medical clearance, and then, like I said, it's not uncommon for the hospital and Winnebago to go back and forth butting heads as far as what they want versus what the hospital wants and so on.
Do you have records of village expenses just for these cases? Because if we could determine how much this costs us every year, I wouldn't mind doing a resolution to the state and our representatives and stuff from the village board, having them change the statute or somehow reimburse municipalities like us for our expenses. If they're telling us we have to do this, you know, and we have to pay for it, there should be some type of, and we can't do much about it except a resolution as a unit, as a municipality, at least to tell them, we don't like this, and see if we can get a ball rolling.
I mean, the number of transports to Winnebago luckily has gone down significantly, so we haven't gotten a lot of them. Usually we're fortunate and able to get somebody placed at the healthcare center. But that's the worst case.
Remember, I told you how to solve this problem, is to take them an SMS, give the waitress $20 and say, here, feed this guy. and come back home.
Yeah, so it's a problem, I mean, 'cause then you also have this person who's in crisis and they need mental health and they're reaching out for mental health assistance, and you're stuck at the hospital for long periods of time, and then they eat a bill in often cases, so it's something that the chiefs of police is constantly working with. The Chiefs of Police Association, along with the Badger Sheriffs, part of what they do is, as an association, is they lobby for different legislative things that are impacting us, and chapter 5115 is a key piece of legislation. We're trying to get that stuff changed and streamlined as much as possible, but it's a slow process, obviously.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, it's not a joking matter, I mean, suicides are up, what, 33% last decade or two? You know, it really isn't funny, you know, like, you know, we unfortunately are stuck with having to use officers for a lot of our mental health resources right now in this whole country, especially in rural areas. I mean, North Central Healthcare is, you know, horribly underfunded in the county, and it's the county too, it's not just a state thing, it's, I mean, nationwide, so, I mean, you know, whenever we're having to send officers on patrol to deal with this, I mean, it's important they deal with that situation. I mean, someone could end up hurting someone else or themselves, or ending their life, or other people. You know, frankly, you know, I know there was a proposal by somebody on this board to defund the police by 35% a couple months ago. You know, what I'm gathering from this report is that the police department would not be in favor of that, of a proposal.
Well, you're misquoting that, defund the police business.
Well, I mean,
All
we
we
advocated
were
a
doing was looking
35%
at the
cut to the police
We were looking
department.
at cutting budgets, and at that time, the police department budget had increased like 60-some% in 2 years. And all we were talking about was reducing the budget comparable to all the other departments that we were reducing.
which you advocated cutting by more than a third, which I would describe as a radical defund police agenda that would fit
Well,
in
that's your
utopias such as Portland and San Francisco.
You're being a little, way out in left field there.
Anything else for the chief's report? All right, thanks, chief.
You bet.
All right, moving on, item number 4, swearing in of elected official, Aaron Mazak. Come forward, sir. Give it up.
How do you pronounce your last name?
And Pete will take your picture.
And then as an elected public official, are you good with being sworn in front of the public?
Yes.
Okay, great. So repeat after me, raise your right hand. I, Aaron Mishka, have been elected or appointed to the office of Kronenwetter Village Trustee, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of said office
of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Welcome. I'll have you sign this if you want to come on.
Congratulations. Congrats. All right, moving on to item I. Discussion action, appeal of conditional use permit, John Ciulla, 896 Gardner Park.
Okay, you guys have got a copy in the packet. Basically, the planning commission approved the conditional use permit request for the placement of a second building, actually another dwelling on the parcel located at 896 Gardner Park. It's a 11-acre parcel that's currently zoned RR5. Some of the reasoning and justification for the conditional use is to care for the applicant's elderly family members in the existing principal building. I have on there 950 square feet, but I believe it's like 1,200 square feet. The elderly family would be living there, and then they propose to build a 3,400 square feet principal building for his family of 5. On January 30th, the planning commission approved the conditional use permit for the second dwelling. And that's, I'm sorry, January 24th it was. On January 30th, we received, from Joel Strauss, a submitted written notice of agreement to the Village of Kronenwetter zoning administrator appealing the planning commission's issuance of that conditional use permit. Then I just attached a copy of the notice, and it just says, "Dear Mr. Wagner, pursuant to 520-121F, this letter is to serve as a formal written notice of agreement to the Village of Kronenwetter zoning administrator as it pertains to the clock sign conditional use permit." Clock sign is the name of the builder. Request that was reviewed on Wednesday, January 24th, 2024 by the Kronenwetter Planning Commission. If the CUP was not granted, please disregard this letter. Just as a side note, a person is agreed when the decision has a direct effect on a person's legally protected rights and interests. Mr. Straub's notice of appeal did not specify the basis for his appeal, so as a result, I just sent him an email saying, "Joe, how are you agreed? What are you appealing? What committee are you requesting?" And then his response to me was appearance of impropriety. 124 Plan Commission packet, item 8G. 8G is basically those 5 requirements that the Plan Commission reviews in order to make a decision. Unfortunately, filing an appeal puts on hold, it stays the decision, puts it on hold. So on that same date, on January 30th, I sent an email to John Ciulla and Dean Clockson, the builder, advising them to stop work and any all activities related to the placement of a second principal building on the property. Not to do any further work, basically. And then that the email serves as written notice. They're not to continue any work. I don't even know if Mr. Straub's here today.
No.
Well, that, before I go any further, I don't know how that would work. In my experience, when you have an agreed party, they submit an appeal, with their basis for the appeal. in some type of evidence that they're providing myself and the village board. In a case where he's not here and is not speaking, I don't know how you wanna proceed. You got two options. One is you could just not take any action, or two, you could follow through. And, cause at the end of the day, all the appeal is asking for is you to review the conditional use permit in those, documents that were used by the planning commission to make the decision, and review those same criteria and answer the question whether or not, you agree or disagree with the issues of the conditional use. Or you could agree and add conditions, to your issuance, second issuance, I guess, or denial of the conditional use permit.
I mean, to me, there's no evidence that was submitted in this. The person submitting it didn't use his real name to answer. He didn't sign his emails. You know, this person's appealed a lot of things. I mean, I don't understand how he could be personally affected by this. He didn't provide any reason for it, other than basically just obstructing a landowner that appears to have followed the requirements set forth by the plan commission. There should be a substantial evidence threshold to you know, have a valid appeal of this. You know, there's no evidence submitted here. I don't see how we as a board should do anything with this. I mean, respectfully would say I don't see any basis for an appeal to this conditional use permit.
So I'm looking at page 21, the findings of fact, conditional use. Is there much of any place in Kronenwetter where a request like this could even be denied based on this criteria?
That's a good question. You know, first off, I tried to research prior to, putting together a report to see if there's any example, actually before he even submitted his conditional use permit. There's language that clearly states it's under 520-16 standards generally applicable to land uses. It says clearly number of principal buildings per lot. More than one principal building is allowed on any lot only by the conditional use permit in a rural residential or single family district. So you could even have you could request under a conditional use permit, additional dwelling or another principal building, possibly more than this is more than one, so it could mean three. The problem is those requirements, those conditions that are associated with the issuance are merely similar to those that relate to issuance of a permit. You know, they have an approved sanitary permit for another system. They're meeting the density requirements, the number of principal buildings and accessory buildings in their property. They meet the setback requirements. They got a variance because the parcel itself didn't meet the minimum frontage requirements because it abuts the end of Gardner Park Road and only at 66 feet, so that's been taken care of. Yeah, they're really, to deny it, you have to have good justification, and it's gotten even more restrictive with Act 67, which says a city, village, town, or county to grant a conditional use permit, if it requires that a city, village, town, or county to grant a conditional use permit if the applicant meets or agrees to meet all the requirements and conditions specified in the relevant ordinance or imposed by the relevant zoning board. So again, he's met all those requirements. He's applied for the zoning permit and uniform dwelling permit. He's got an issued sanitary permit. He meets all the requirements. And it goes further to state that any such conditions must be related to the purpose of the ordinance and based on substantial evidence. In addition, the Act requires those requirements and conditions to be reasonable and to the extent practicable and measurable. All the things that that he already meets or that would be required for this type of project are met. The only thing is you need a conditional use permit for a second dwelling. I did receive some calls on it, and they were concerns regarding the density, and I crunched some numbers on density. Because he is RR5, the maximum building coverage would be 95,000 square feet. And with there's an existing home, or it's like because it's a home, it's got a deck, it's a garage underneath with living quarters above, and the two small garages or sheds in the property. If you add that to what he's proposing, it only comes to 6,200 square feet.
So he's well under the 95,000.
Yeah.
He's not building a community development director type house.
Well, that hurt. I just broke my pen, no. No, not at all.
So what are the grounds for the appeal? I didn't even hear any grounds. If there's no grounds, we don't even need this discussion, really. I mean, what are the grounds? Not the appeal, I'm sorry, the argument against it.
I don't know. I mean, if you look at the definition of impropriety, it's, I looked at a couple of them, they all talk about dishonest. And what was dishonest?
He's trying to put 97,000
Well,
square feet.
Well, he lives 2.75 miles away. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, it's too bad we, even had to take this long to throw this out. Or, I mean, we haven't voted on it, but there's nothing to go off on this appeal. There's no evidence made. I think Mr. Straub should apologize to this person, but he's just a member of the public nowadays. It's too bad, he was an elected trustee, quite frankly, in my opinion. Doing this, someone living in the village, following all the applicable codes, last minute, halting construction, probably increasing his costs. I move we take no action on this item or if, yeah, I move we take no action on this item.
Do we have to approve the Yeah, we would have to approve it. We have appealing.
Oh, okay. Well, I amend my motion. I move we.
Just rescind it.
I rescind my motion and I move that we approve the conditional use permit for Mr. Ciulla.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Alex made a motion, Sean made a second to approve the conditional use permit for John Ciulla at 896 Gardner Park. Any further discussion?
I just got a quick question. So in a case like this is kind of new, and I haven't been on a planning commission, didn't hear any of this. So down the future road, like say once the parents, they pass away, what's the plans? I mean, it's probably none of my business, but I guess I'm looking at, a lot of neighborhoods people might wanna do the same thing, put little homes and stuff in, yards, and I'm just trying to get a feel for this, cause this is kind of.
Yeah, well, so I have 3 little boys, right, 11, 9, and 6, and the plan in the trust, it's all gonna be in the trust, and the place stays in the trust and it goes to the kids, and it becomes a Ciulla community, or, just for the kids to bring when we're done, it's not being planned to sold off or do anything, it's gonna be in the family with the family.
Like a guest house or something.
Yeah, the little one's gonna go to the grandparents at the Grouse per se, but then we're gonna be building it's actually a $2,400 or 2,400 square foot home, ranch that we're building on there for us to live on. So for us and the 3 kids, yeah, that's gonna stay for a long time. These kids are not gonna sell that place.
No, I'm just curious, but like I say, just trying to get a grasp of it. See, this is kind of new, this kind of, this type of setup,
Yeah.
Cause so that's why I said I just questioned.
No, and I appreciate you guys looking in and seeing the necessity of getting it done. And for me, I appreciate that. And hopefully maybe something goes in the rules or whatever that someone can't wait so long to be able to justify what's going on, because it took quite a while. I didn't get any feedback for a couple of months, So putting something in there to say, hey, there's a time limit maybe would be awesome. But thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Pete, can you explain why it took so long to bring it to the board?
I think the rationale was, waiting to get some kind of response from Mr. Straub before he moved forward. And I think I talked to John easily once a week, and we just weren't getting anything. And I took it to Leonard and said, Leonard, I think enough is enough. At the end of the day, the village board needs to make a decision based on those criteria. And if he's just gonna give us a 1-sentence rationale, hopefully gives us something prior to the public, prior to this meeting, or present something during the meeting, which unfortunately didn't happen. I think that was, kind of a waiting game to see what his argument was. On another note, I would like to discuss this further with, I don't know if it's split for planning commission. I think some of these things would go away, like with your concerns, if we had, and I've seen it in other municipalities, if you had like a multiplier effect for the second dwelling or for an additional dwelling unit. A lot of times, if, let's say it's a non-sewered, off-water lot, that's minimum square footage is 20,000 square feet, 50 feet of road frontage, you could impose or require an additional 10,000 square feet and 25 feet of frontage for an additional dwelling unit. So that way you have some kind of standard, because like right now, he's got 11 acres. If somebody did come in with a 20,000 square foot lot, and somebody made the comment, how would you deny it? I think it'd be pretty hard to deny it, other than, especially to meet all the applicable setbacks and density requirements.
That's true. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Chris Bull,
Yes.
Ken Cherneski,
Yes.
Tim Shaw, Sean DeMay,
Yes.
Alex Bedwick,
Yes.
Chris Iden,
Yes.
All right, motion carried, 6-0. Moving on to item J, discussion and action ordinance amendment 2024-03, chapter 496-5, definitions, updating ordinance to eliminate ambiguity.
This seems pretty basic, I guess. I'll make the motion to approve the amendment as presented.
Second.
We got a motion by Ken, second by Chris to approve the amendment as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Chris Bull,
Yes.
Ken Cherneski.
Yes.
Tim Shaw.
Was that a yes, Tim, or no? Thank you.
Sean DeMay,
Yes.
Alex Bedwick,
Yes.
Chris Iden,
Yes.
All right, motion carried, 6-0. All right, moving on to number 5, old business. Discussion, village clerk's interview with the WAOW, January 3rd. So Tim, that's your item.
Okay, yeah, well, I've been supposed to be on the board for a while. Bobby wanted to be in attendance when it wasn't on the board. We put it on, off, and finally it's here. I just like to, in a conversation with Bobby and I had, and I think she had mentioned it at other times, I guess it's been so long that she was taken out of context that I just like to understand what that meant, what the context was, and then how it was taken out of, what the conversation was and what was taken out of context. And then looking at what we have for a policy for, for communication. We talked a little bit about that on the last meeting, but I guess the first question would be, is Bobby, how do you feel you were taken out of context in the interview?
So I drafted a written statement. I'm going to read this statement, and that is all I'm going to comment. On January 3rd, 2024, we had no active administrator. I was granted permission from the village president, Chris Bull, to be interviewed about the 2024 spring primary election on February 20th, 2024. Per our employee handbook, page 33, section 5.5, entitled Media Relations, it clearly states if the administrator is not available for the interview, either the village president or the department head, which I am, will be the spokesperson for their respective department, giving the media information and aid the department head feels is appropriate. The printed out article included in this agenda packet speaks for itself with the verbiage I used for my interview with Channel 9 News on January 3rd, 2024. If Trustees Shaw and Cherneski took offense to what I said, then consider this an apology if what was said came across you both the wrong way. It was not my intention to hurt the feelings or offend any candidates running for the election. One thing I have learned working in governmental positions is that being offended is a choice. Take the higher road. You will live with less animosity for the world. In addition, Trustee Cherneski has filed a rather extensive list of complaints with what he presumes to be multiple and ongoing violations against me with the State of Wisconsin Elections Commission. In his summary, he discusses my interview and how he perceives to think the meaning of my words were to replace the incumbents, accuse me of liking social media posts that disparage the incumbents, and directly accuses me of lying about my words being taken out of context to cover up mine, and I quote from Trustee Charneski's summary wording, my inappropriate biased behavior from an official in charge of fair elections. Due to Trustee Charneski's choice to file complaints of alleged election violations against me, which includes mentioning of my news media interview on January 3rd, 2024, this being an ongoing legal matter that could potentially end up in court, I will not be speaking any further on this topic.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to comment that I didn't take offense to anything. You mentioned that Trustee Shaw and Trustee Charneski took offense to it. I didn't take offense to anything. I was just, we had a discussion and you said you were taken out of context, and I just wanted to know what was meant by that, how you were taken out of context. There was no offense on my part.
Okay.
Well, apparently there's no comment to that. I'd just like to say that I was trying to work with the clerk for over a year to correct the inappropriate conduct of the elections.
Ken, we're not here to talk about the election,
Okay.
we're talking about the
Well,
comments.
she mentioned it, so I just wanted to clarify that, and she was the one who invited me to file a complaint. And apparently, that was the only way to get, make any progress on
And I guess if you're talking about the election, what's through the village as well?
it. No,
We're not,
That's open record.
he made a comment,
Okay.
she made a comment, that's it, we're not talking about election. It's only about the interview.
What?
Anything else, Tim?
No, I'm okay with that. Just, I assume then, we had the conversation at the end of last meeting that Leonard had mentioned that, there is policy in place now, and obviously we have an administrator, so
Yep.
we hopefully won't have to worry about any permissions or anything else.
Well, it always,
The policy will be.
the policy has always been in place. It was in the employee handbook, which has not been reprinted since it was initially passed by the village board.
That's it.
So the process was followed. Where there was no administrator,
What?
the process was followed. As Bobby mentioned in her letter, there's no administrator at the time. I wasn't available
No,
to.
I'm not suggesting that it wasn't valid.
Okay.
I'm just wanting to understand that in the future, we have a precedent, or if we have a policy, I guess that's what I was looking to discuss.
Yep.
As to who would be the persons discussing what with the media, I guess, and the administrator and the president would, but obviously, in my opinion, be the most logical choices.
Right. Yep. Agreed. That's how the policy's laid out.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
All right, thanks, Tim. All right, moving on, item number 6, consent agenda. We have the village board minutes and the bartender's license. Anybody want to talk about those individually, or I would entertain a motion to approve both as presented?
Just a quick correction on the village board meeting minutes. Item right away number 1, Trustee Chris Lowell called the meeting to order. That was Trustee Chris Iden, so.
I'll fix it.
Okay,
Put that in one spell too.
that's it.
And then there was one other, I saw item F on there, the motion carried 6-2. Roll call vote?
Well, I voted twice in that one.
Oh.
Which?
Probably style, you know.
Thanks for getting on the record.
What?
Which item?
Yeah.
Item F?
Yeah.
There's probably a soup. Anything else? Studying that motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the actual corrections.
I'll second.
All right, Chris made a motion, Ken made a second to approve the consent agenda with the minutes being amended as discussed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Aye.
Item number 7, we have previous clip minutes. Questions or comments for Clip? All right, thanks, Clip. Moving on to item number 8, consideration of items for future agendas. Anybody have anything? All right, hearing none, item number 9, adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, Ken made a motion, Sean made the second, or sorry, Alex made the second to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Sean, for your service. You guys will be missed. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks much. Gentlemen. Likewise.
All right, take care, Tim.
Good night.
Thanks. You too. I'll write that
So
down.
I'm gonna go contact